good. 35 psi. Well, I picked up this sweet rig here. It's a two-part deal. It was a Suzuki. It's a 2003 ltz400. It was this one and a Kawasaki KFX400. Bought the pair, $1,150 each. So I don't even know where to start with this one. Apparently, the guy said he bought this one to pull the motor out of to put in the Kawasaki, which is a 2008. I think this is an 03. He said this was an 07 and the Kawasaki was an 08. And really, once I got home, I looked at the VIN, and this is an 03 and the Kawasaki's an 07. Either way, whatever. Brand spanking new tires on it. Yeah. All the way around. Some more lovely spray painted bed liner style rims. I'm going to tear into it. See if we got any spark after I leaked fuel everywhere. It's always a good idea. I know you're in there. Maybe. Oh, come on now. Alright, well. We got a good spark. I took that out so we don't have any issues. See what we got for compression. Hopefully a lot. Always got to be hopeful. I don't even know what we should have. Probably 140-ish. 130, 140. More than that would be nice. Maybe. Alright, come on. Not looking good. .35 psi. Ooh, not good. Ooh. We're 180 out. There we go. Alright. Now, where are we? It's hard to see through this crisscross pile of wires. I don't know if you can see it now. Alright, the intake side, IN over there. It's supposed to be, according to spec, it's supposed to be 0.10 to 0.20 millimeter. So, if you have low compression, one thing it could be is your valves are too tight, and if they're too tight, they're always kind of open, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go with the smallest. You're probably never going to see it, but that's a 0.10 millimeter, which is, if this doesn't fit, then it's obviously too tight. Yeah, and it won't even begin to go on that one. Yeah, can't even be. Let me go to the other side too. Can't do anything from there. Let me get to it from this side. It's not even beginning to go in there. No, it won't even begin to go. This is 0.20, so if this doesn't fit, then the exhaust is too tight. Actually, that goes right in. Stay out here. That goes in easily. I'll lose that. Oh, I'm gonna have to fold it up. Yeah, that goes in really easily. I'll try the 0.30, see if it's out the other way. It's definitely loose on the exhaust. If the 0.30 goes in, 0.35, 33, 30, there we go. Alright, this is 0.30, which would be the top of the spec. It's a little loose. That one is. That one's loose too. Alright, well. So the exhaust side's loose, intake side is tight. So now I gotta figure out how tight is it. I might have to start at 0 and do this a couple times to get it right. But I don't know if I have. I mean, 0.10 is, it's a tight gap as it is. I like to stay on the upper end personally, but that way I know my valves are closing. So if it goes from 10 to 20, 0.10 to 0.20, I'd get as close to 0.20 as I could get on the intake side. My personal opinion. It don't mean a whole lot. I mean, this thing is like freaking, look at this thing. It's a 0.03. I don't know if it would, I mean, this 0.04, 0.05. There's a 0.06. That might be stiff enough to go in there. I mean, it's like tinfoil. Nope, won't even go. So we're probably less than 0. And that's a, I don't know if you can see it, but That's a .06, and it won't even begin to go. So hopefully that's just where we're losing our compression. So I'll tighten up the exhaust side and loosen up the intake. I'll double check that exhaust and see where that's at, because I can, if it's loose, I can find it. I can tighten them up where they need to be. It's probably around 30.35 or something, so that'll be an easy fix. This side, it might take me a few tries. Oh. So those two bolts so far were longer than all the rest of them. Alright, here's the exhaust specs that I came up with. The exhaust had a 3.0 in it, both sides. Now the intake was odd. It had a 290 over here and a 280 over here. Now I do all my valves, so like if you were sitting on the seat looking forward, so this would be the rear and this would be the front, and each one is where they should be here. Okay, just like that. This would be the front, this would be the back. Line them right up. So these were loose, the exhausts were loose. I had them about 0.33, this is millimeters. So they had a 3.0. I wanted to be about 0.25, which would be about 0.08 if you added that, come out to 308. Well, there is no 308, there is 305 and a 310. So I decided to go with 305. It'll put me about, should put me about a 0.28. Still within spec, but more towards the loose side, which is where I want to be. In my opinion, anyways. That way you know the valves are closed and you're not losing compression. Down here, I couldn't get a feeler gauge in either one of those. So I'm going to assume they're less than 0, but I'm going to start at 0. If I have to take it back apart and shim it again, I will, but at least this way I can get a feeler gauge in there to see where it's at. So this one was a 2.9, that one was a 2.8, 2.80. So I subtracted 0.15 and came up with a 265. That's what I'm going to run in both of them. So that should put me, yeah, 0.15 target. So by subtracting the 0.15, because I'm going to say it's, I don't even know if you guys are seeing it, I'm watching it, but you ain't. I'm going to say it's at 0. That's the only reason I'm subtracting the entire target, 0.15. Came up with a 265 for the intake, and that's where I'm going to start with it. It'd be nice if it was right on so I didn't have to take it back apart, but usually I have to take them back apart. So we'll see. .65s. .305s on the exhaust side. I like to give them a little shot of lube. Keep all your buckets where they belong. Maybe. It's hard working around these cables. Come on, you. Why do you look weird? Alright, I had to take it back apart and re-shim the intake side. Ended up going with a 260 on this side and a 270 on that side, which is odd because when they came out it was a 290 over here and a 280 over there, which is opposite. So I'm wondering if, I don't know, maybe they just did it backwards. Anyways, I ended up with the exhaust is, this side's a 0.28 and that side's a 0.25. Oops. This side's 0.28, that side's 0.25. So it's all within spec now. I should have pushed down on those valves, make sure they sprung down and came back up, make sure there wasn't a broken spring, but I guess we're gonna find out. I'm gonna put the cover back on and see if it'll fire. Alright, valves are adjusted. Got everything put back together. Let's see what we got now. Not too great. About 115. I don't know if that's, I figured it should be probably 140-ish. We're gonna find out if it'll run though. I don't have the gas tank on it yet, but I put some gas down the spark plug hole. If it runs off from that, then we'll work on some getting the fuel tank and stuff back on it, checking the card. Here we go. Well, it's fired. Now maybe I'll get the tank on it and we'll see if it'll run a little longer than that. Alright, we got some fuel under now. Got a little two-stroke gas running to the car, but I guess next thing's gonna be oil change. Needs a shift shaft seal. That's the main reason he sold it cheap, I think, is because it needed that seal. Or he said the shift shaft was out of it, but it doesn't seem to be out of it. I don't know. Gotta look into that. Gonna pull the carb and clean it and see what the jets are at, because you have to run it with most of the choke. Because she got a little bit of a leak down there. You can see all that oil. Found out the problem with it. The shifter wasn't really moving at all. The shifter's where it needs to be. The bottom half of the case where the shift shaft comes out is gone. It's broken off. So it moves up and down a little bit and it leaks a lot of oil. So it just needs a case replaced. Which now I know why he said he wanted to change that motor out. So he may have known that was broken and just didn't say anything. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just thought it'd be easier to change the motor. I don't know. Either way, I pulled the carb out and was working on that. I took a couple videos with my phone, but I don't even know if I'm going to add that to this. Cleaned that. That's probably the worst carburetor I've ever cleaned in my life. Not hard to tear apart and put back together. It was just dirty. The air screw was turned all the way in. It was seated tight. See, the needle valve for the float was stuck. I had to use vice grips to pull that out. It was like green, almost looked like mold holding it in there, but I got it all tore down. Everything looks good. You know, parts wise, all the rubber Stuff in there was all in good shape. I just cleaned every bit of it. I actually had to use a wire brush on it. That's how bad it was. And it took me an hour and a half. That's seriously the worst one I've ever cleaned. But let's come here. I had to add some oil to it. In there. So this is as far as I'm going to take this one. Another thing, the problem was I got it all hooked up, got the carb back in it, and this line wasn't hooked onto it when I pulled it apart. So when I put it back on, I never really noticed it. I thought it was a I don't know, just like a vent. So I just put a hose and ran it down through to here, thinking it was just a vent line. Well, apparently it's a vacuum line, and that's what helps draw the fuel through here, I guess. I've never worked on one of these, so I don't really know for sure, but fuel would only come out if it was straight across. So I'm assuming that that means prime. When it was straight up or straight down, nothing would happen. I blew air through it and everything else. I couldn't figure it out. But once I hooked this vacuum line up, pull the line off with it running, and it was just pumping fuel through. So that's working good, both reserve and on. So figured that out. Then it would only run sitting in the shop. Go to full throttle and it would run great. I mean, it would go right up, hit the rev limiter. As soon as I took the charger off, put the seat on, I'd get 2 feet out the door and it would run all right at idle, but it like quarter throttle, it would start breaking up every time. So I ended up bringing it back in. That's when I fixed the carburetor, and I thought that was what it was. It did it again. So I pushed it back in, I hooked it back up, and I had to sit here and think about it. Why does it run good in here, and as soon as I take it out, it doesn't? So the only thing I was changing was I was unhooking the battery charger. So the battery that was in it was complete garbage, and I don't know if it just couldn't keep enough current to make spark and it was breaking up or what, I don't know. So I had a brand new battery I was saving for the 400EX. I threw that in it, hit the key, it fired up, revved up great, took it out, and it runs amazing. So here you go. That's pretty much everything you missed. Let's try it without the choke. Choke's off. So, I mean, that's cold start right there. It was 45 degrees in here this morning. And I literally just started the wood stove, so it's still 45 degrees. And it started right off. No choke. Everything seems to work now. This was part of a two-part deal. So I have a Kawasaki and they're identical, apparently, pretty much. So I'm going to see if that one will run. I may swap that motor with this motor, and this will be done, ready to go. And then I'll order or find a used left side case on Marketplace. We'll tear that down, put a new case on it, and throw it in the Kawasaki. Or I might just keep the motor with this one and keep that motor with that one, since Alright. Well, it's running, it's riding. Everything's working perfect. Other than the fact that the case is broke, where the shift shaft comes out, that needs repaired, and it's missing the caliper on the rear. Other than that, it's really nice. Runs good, starts up easy. So thinking I'm going to fix it. I could probably fix it, you know, put a case on it, left side case for, I don't know, 150, 200 bucks. That's cracked, not a big deal. Probably 50 bucks for a brake assembly. I just can't bring myself to part them out. I just have to keep fixing them. So, I mean, it's got Alba Racing steering stem on it, Pro Taper bars, Alba Racing front grab bar. You know, pretty nice bars. Invader. You know, brand spanking new tires. The rims I can clean up. So there you go. Let me know what you think I should do with it. I'm thinking I'm gonna fix it, just because I paid extra fuel. I have 1,200 bucks in it, and it cost me less than $1 to fix this. It just needed shimmed. So I got 4 new shims in there. I pulled the carb off and cleaned it, and there you go. Runs great. The air screw was turned all the way in and seated tight. That was probably one of the biggest things wrong with it. I don't know, it's just, they're super simple fixes that people just sell them. You know, you can make so much more money off your machine with just a little bit of wrenching on it. So you might see this one again. I might pull the motor, do that case, and fix the brake, but for now that's another one fixed. So I might just drag this Kawasaki in, and I think that's probably going to be the same problem.